There is a moment on a date, a single, quiet, electric moment, when everything shifts. He's not saying anything different, the conversation hasn't changed, but something in the way he reaches across the table, or the way his hand finds yours, or the way he leans in just a fraction closer than he needs to. Something in that moment tells you that tonight is going to stay with him long after it ends. Most people never realize that a first date is not decided by what is said. It is decided by what is felt. And the feelings that linger, the ones that keep a man lying awake at 2 a.m, replaying the evening in his mind, almost never come from the most brilliant thing you said. They come from the moments of physical closeness that carried a charge neither of you quite expected. If you've ever walked away from a date wondering, did he feel what I felt? Is he thinking about me right now? This video is going to answer that question so clearly you'll never have to wonder again. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which touches reveal that a man is not just enjoying his evening, he is falling for you in real time. You'll understand why these specific moments lodge themselves so deeply in a man's memory. And you'll know how to be fully present for them instead of missing them while you're busy worrying about how the date is going. Let's start with what's really happening when you sit down on a first or second date. You've been trying so hard to get everything right. You've thought about what to wear, what to say, how to seem confident without seeming like you're trying too hard. You've rehearsed a few things you want to ask him. You've reminded yourself not to talk too much about your ex. You've told yourself to be present, to be interesting, to be warm. And then you get there, and all of that preparation sort of disappears into the noise of just being there, being a real human being across the table from another real human being, hoping that something real passes between you. Here's what nobody tells you about that hoping. Most women spend their energy on the verbal side of a date. What to say, how to respond, when to laugh. And those things matter. Of course they do. But the verbal side of a date is only half the story. The other half, arguably the more powerful half, is entirely physical. It's the language of proximity, of touch, of bodies communicating what words haven't yet found their way to saying. And men in particular process romantic connection through this physical channel in a way that is deep and lasting. Research into memory and emotion consistently shows that sensory experiences, what we feel literally on our skin, are encoded in memory more vividly than almost anything else. Which means that if a date carries a physical charge, if there were moments of touch that felt meaningful, that man will carry those moments with him long after the evening ends. The touches I'm going to show you today are not accidental. They are not casual. They are the moments where his body tells the truth before his heart has worked up the courage to. And learning to recognize them and to be truly present for them is going to change the way you experience every date you ever go on from this point forward. Every date has a moment of first touch. And the nature of that first touch tells you almost everything about where his head is. There is a first touch that is polite, a handshake, a quick light hug hello, friendly, warm, perfectly appropriate. And it tells you that he is being respectful, which is fine, but it doesn't tell you much about desire. And then there is a first touch that is deliberate. that carries a fraction more warmth than strictly necessary, that lasts half a beat longer than the social standard requires. That is the one worth paying attention to. When a man is genuinely drawn to you, when he's been thinking about seeing you again, when he arrived with anticipation rather than just showing up, his first touch reflects that. He might hold the hug a moment longer. He might let his hand rest on your arm as you say hello. He might touch the small of your back as he guides you inside, right at the very beginning of the evening, before a single word of real conversation has passed. That early touch is not an accident. It is his attraction speaking before he has given himself permission to. Picture this. He arrives, and when he sees you, there's a visible shift in his expression. Not dramatic, but real. And when you hug hello, his arms hold on for just a moment longer than necessary. When he pulls back, he doesn't immediately step away. He stays in that close proximity for a second, smiling at you. And then the evening begins. That greeting, that deliberate, warm, slightly too close greeting, has already set the tone for the whole night in his mind. Think about that for a second. He has not yet said a meaningful word to you, and he has already told you something true about how he feels. The deliberate first touch is a man's attraction arriving before his words do, and it is always honest. But here's where it gets interesting. Because the most telling touches on a date are not the obvious ones. They are the ones wrapped in an excuse. A man who is falling for someone on a date becomes creative. He finds reasons to reach across the gap between you. He notices something on your hand and reaches over to look at it. He points out something outside and his arm ends up close to yours. He laughs at something you say and his hand lands on your arm and stays there a moment longer than the laugh required. None of these are accidental. Every single one of them is his desire finding a socially acceptable vehicle. This is actually one of the most beautiful things about the early stages of attraction. The creativity that longing produces. He doesn't yet have permission to simply take your hand. He doesn't yet have the established intimacy to reach for you without a reason. So he generates reasons. Small, plausible, charming reasons to close the distance between you and feel the warmth of your skin for just a moment. Here's how this looks in real life. You're telling a story about something that happened to you, and you laugh and he laughs with you. And his hand goes to your forearm while he laughs, just for a second, and then it comes back to his own side of the table. 20 minutes later, you're looking at something on his phone together, and his shoulder is suddenly against yours. He lingers there, shoulder to shoulder, a little longer than strictly necessary. Then later, he reaches over and moves a strand of hair that really wasn't bothering either of you at all. None of those moments needed to happen. All of them happened because he wanted to be closer to you and was quietly, creatively finding his way there. Every excuse he finds to touch you is a small act of courage. He is reaching toward you the only way he has permission to, for now. Now, this is the one I want you to sit with. This is the one that changes everything. Because there is a quality of touch that goes beyond attraction. It goes beyond simple physical interest. And when you experience it on a date, you will feel it in a way that is different from anything else on this list. Because this touch feels like recognition, like being truly met. This is the touch that mirrors your emotional state in real time. When you share something vulnerable, something real about yourself, something that costs you a little courage to say, and he reaches across and touches your hand, not with energy, not with excitement, but with quiet steadiness, as if to say, I heard you. I'm here. That mattered. When you laugh until your eyes water and his hand goes to your back, warm and delighted. When you go quiet for a moment, thinking about something, and he doesn't fill the silence with noise. He simply puts his hand near yours and lets the quiet be quiet. This kind of touch is emotionally fluent. It means he is not just physically present on this date. He is emotionally present. He is tracking you, not in a calculating way, but in the way that someone tracks a person they are genuinely fascinated by. He is reading every shift in your mood and responding to it with his whole body, not just his words. Imagine this. You're somewhere in the middle of the date and you mention something you lost. A person, a dream, a version of your life you expected to have by now. You don't make it dramatic. You're just honest for a moment. And instead of immediately offering advice, instead of trying to fix it or redirect the conversation, he reaches across and covers your hand with his. He holds it there. He looks at you and says simply, I'm glad you told me that. And then the conversation moves on. But something between you has deepened permanently. That touch was not about attraction. That touch was about care. And care in the early stages of a connection is rarer and more valuable than almost anything else. When his touch responds to your heart, not just your beauty, you are no longer on a date. You are in the beginning of something real. And if you think that was powerful, wait for this. There is a touch that is so instinctive, so automatic, that most men don't even realize they're doing it. And yet it is one of the clearest signals that a man is not just enjoying your company. He is already on some level invested in your safety and your comfort. This is the protective reach. It happens in transitions. When you're moving from one place to another, leaving the restaurant, crossing a busy street, walking through a crowd, his hand appears at your back, on your arm, briefly taking yours. Not because you need help, not because you asked for it, but because when you're close to him, his body automatically moves to keep you close and keep you safe. This is ancient and real. The instinct to shield what we value is not something men practice or decide consciously. When it's genuine, it simply happens. His arm extends toward you when you step off a curb. He guides you through a crowd with his hand at your back. He notices the cold before you do and instinctively moves to put himself between you and the wind. Real life version. You're leaving the restaurant together, stepping out into a busy street. Without a word, his hand appears at the small of your back, guiding you gently toward the pavement. It lasts about 3 seconds. He's already back to talking and laughing by the time his hand is gone. He probably doesn't even remember doing it. But you felt it. You felt it somewhere underneath your ribs, that quiet, warm feeling of being looked after, of being someone worth looking after. That feeling is not manufactured. That feeling is your body recognizing something true. A man who instinctively shields you before the relationship has even started is already treating you like someone he intends to keep around. Now, this next one might surprise you because it doesn't happen during the date at all. It happens at the very end. And it is arguably the most important touch of the entire evening. The goodbye. Most people think the goodbye is the least significant moment of a date. The real stuff happened earlier. The conversation, the laughter, the connection. The goodbye is just a formality, right? Wrong. The goodbye is where everything he felt during the evening comes to a head. Because the goodbye is the moment of separation. And how a man handles separation from someone he is falling for tells you everything. Does he rush through it? Does he linger? Does he find reasons to extend the moment, to stay just a little longer, to hold just a little tighter than a regular hug requires? When a man is genuinely captivated, when he has been thinking about you for the last 3 hours and knows that the moment this goodbye ends, he'll be going home to replay every moment of the evening alone. He does not rush the goodbye. He holds the hug a beat longer than necessary. He pulls back and looks at you for a second before stepping away. Maybe he takes your hand and holds it briefly before letting go. Maybe he just stands there for a moment, like he hasn't quite found the right thing to say. Because what he really wants to say is, I'm not quite ready for this to be over. Picture this. The date is wrapping up. You're both standing outside and there's that lovely, slightly electric awkwardness of an evening that went well. He hugs you goodbye and you both know immediately that this hug is different from the hello hug. His arms stay for a moment. You feel him breathe. And when he pulls back, he doesn't immediately reach for his phone or start talking about getting home. He just looks at you, and there's something in his eyes that you'll think about all the way home. That is a man who is already thinking about you. He just hasn't left yet. A man who lingers in the goodbye is a man who is already dreading the space between tonight and the next time he gets to see you. Almost there. And this one, this quiet, easily missed one, is the touch that separates a man who had a nice evening from a man who is genuinely falling. It's the touch that has nothing to do with attraction and everything to do with attention. This is the touch that comes when you say something real, something that reveals who you actually are beneath the surface. And instead of responding with words, his hand moves first. It might be just a brief touch to your wrist. It might be his fingers curling gently around yours for a second. It might be nothing more than the weight of his hand on the back of your hand for half a moment. But it's not casual. It's not reflexive. It's entirely intentional. It's the touch of a man who has just learned something about you that has moved him, and whose body responded before his mind could catch up. This touch says, I see you. Not just the version of you that's on your best behavior tonight, not just the wit and the warmth and the beauty. I see something underneath that, and I want more of it. This is what separates evenings that feel nice from evenings that feel significant. This is what creates the kind of connection that keeps a man awake at night. Not because the date was perfect, but because somewhere in the middle of it, he caught a glimpse of the real you and he couldn't look away. The touch that follows your vulnerability is a man choosing you, not for how you look tonight, but for who you actually are. And finally, the last touch on this list, and the one that makes everything before it matter even more. It's not a touch that happens on the date itself. It's a touch that happens in the hours or days after. It's the reaching back. The text that arrives while you're still on the way home. I had a really good time tonight. Not tomorrow, tonight. While you're still in the car, while he's still in the warmth of what just happened. He couldn't wait. Or the message the next morning that isn't just a courtesy, it's specific. It references something you said. It follows a thread from your conversation. It reaches back toward you with curiosity and warmth. This is the final touch. The digital reach, the verbal reach, the I'm still thinking about you reach. It is the evidence that everything you felt in those moments of physical connection during the date had weight, that it lodged somewhere in him and wouldn't let go. Because here's the truth. A man who is thinking about you all night does not wait 72 hours to tell you he had a good time. A man who felt something real reaches back quickly, warmly, specifically, because he needs you to know, not out of neediness, out of honesty, out of the kind of uncomplicated certainty that genuine feeling produces. Real life version, you get home, you put your bag down, you're still smiling, and before you've even changed out of your clothes, your phone buzzes. It's him. Got home safe? Tonight was really great. I've been thinking about what you said about... And he finishes the sentence with something specific you shared, something real, something that proves he was listening, that he cared, that the evening has followed him home just like it followed you. That is not a man playing games. That is a man who is already thinking about the next time. When he reaches back, before the evening is even over in his mind, the answer to your question, is he thinking about me, is standing right there in your messages. 7 signals, 7 ways his touch on a single date reveals that you have already taken up residence in his mind. The deliberate first touch that arrives before the words do. The creative excuses to close the distance between you. The emotionally fluent touch that mirrors your heart, not just your mood. The instinctive, protective reach that he doesn't even register doing. The lingering goodbye that neither of you want to end. The touch that follows your truth with presence instead of words. And the reaching back. The message that finds you while you're still smiling on the way home. These moments are not small. These moments are the architecture of connection. These are the building blocks of something that, if both of you are brave enough to keep showing up, can grow into something that neither of you expected and both of you needed. And here is what I want you to hold on to after this video ends. You have spent so much time in your head on dates. Planning, monitoring, assessing, worrying. Am I saying the right thing? Am I coming across the way I want to? Does he like me? Does this have a future? And all of that mental noise has been pulling you out of the very moments that have the most power to create real connection. The date that keeps a man thinking all night is not the date where you performed perfectly. It is the date where you were fully, quietly, genuinely present. Where you let the conversation go somewhere real. Where you didn't rush past the moments of warmth. Where you let them land and let him feel you receiving them. That is the invitation he is responding to when he reaches for you. He is reaching towards someone who is actually there. someone who isn't performing or hiding or half absent behind a wall of self-consciousness, someone who showed up fully for the experience of being with him. You know how to do that. You have always known how to do that. You just need to give yourself permission to stop managing the date and start living it. Stop scanning the evening for evidence that it's going well. Start feeling the evidence as it arrives, in the warmth of a touch that lasted a beat too long, in the look that followed a moment of honesty, in the text that came before you'd even gotten home. The connection you're looking for is not something you have to manufacture. It is something that happens between two people who are fully present with each other. Be that person. Show up in your body, in your heart, in your attention. Let him find you actually there when he reaches. Because when you are truly there, when you are present and open and real, you become unforgettable. Not because you tried to be, because real people always are. This is your moment. Don't waste it. If this spoke to you, if something in this video made you see your last date or your next one through completely different eyes, subscribe to this channel and watch our next video on the 7 things a man does in the days after a great date that prove he's genuinely falling. Because tonight was just the beginning, and you deserve to know exactly what comes next.